Hello friends, this is Jim with Science Talk. I have a story I wish to share with you. It's about African elephants. Now I will admit that elephants are one of my favorite creatures. They are incredibly intelligent and I think incredibly fascinating. Here's the interesting thing. African elephants are migrating to safety and telling each other how to get there. The Chobe National Park in northern Botswana is a 11,700 square kilometer sanctuary for animals. That's about 4,500 square miles. Families of endangered African elephants wander freely through the park, which is bordered by Namibia in the north and Zimbabwe in the east. The animals visit watering holes, feed on the lush vegetation, and engage in play activity with the youngest in their groups. African elephants in nearby countries such as Zimbabwe, Zambia, and Namibia are migrating to parks like Chobe, where strict anti-poaching policies allow them to thrive. Botswana is now home to approximately 130,000 elephants, which is a third of Africa's entire elephant population. This is an increase of over 30,000 elephants in Botswana since 1995 against a backdrop of declining numbers across the continent. In 2016, the Great Elephant Census published the first ever continent-wide standardized survey of African savanna elephants. The census found that savanna elephant populations in Africa fell by an estimated 30%, decreased, which is about 144,000 animals in total. And that took place in basically a 7-year stretch between 2007 and 2014. Now keep in mind there are also elephants that are woodland elephants, but most of them are out on the savannas. Today there are only around 350,000 elephants left on the entire continent of Africa. The survey authors blame poaching as the primary reason for the decline. The 2016 survey did not include forest elephants, whose populations are difficult to discern because, well, they're living in dense forests, so it's hard to count them. Estimates suggest that there are only about 100,000 left today of the forest-dwelling elephants. It is thought that at one point there was over 1 million elephants in Africa in the 1970s. So we've gone from over 1 million to 350,000. That's a huge drop in what, 4 decades? Possibly more than 2 million at the beginning of the 20th century. Just like with some of the big baleen whales. It was estimated it was like 100,000 blue whales, and now it's about 10,000. You know, it was estimated 200,000 humpback whales, and and the population is down to about 40,000. So, and again, that was the numbers from about like the turn of the 20th century. So, humans just kill a lot of things. Let's not forget about the great auk, sometimes called the penguin of the north, found in the Canadian maritime locations. There were millions of birds and now they're extinct. They were flightless and they didn't know anything about humans. They weren't afraid of humans, and the hunters just go up there and club them over the head, take their eggs, and so on. They're now extinct. So, Botswana, going back to what we have here, Botswana has become a safe haven for the world's largest land mammals. Okay? That's the elephants, they're the largest land mammals. Elephants are using well-known migratory routes into Botswana to get away from threats from neighboring countries. This is a statement from Mark Hiley, who's co-founder of the UK-based non-profit National Park Rescue. The systematic movement of elephants into Botswana is linked to their survival, he says. Researchers think this migration is just one survival mechanism elephants have developed in response to poaching, conflict, urbanization, agriculture, and other pressures in Africa. In 2016, one elephant made a dangerous 209-kilometer journey over 3 weeks from the relative safety of Kenya to conflict-ridden Somalia, all under the cloak of darkness. The researchers named him Morgan. There's a line of thinking saying that you really shouldn't assign names to your subjects. It makes it too personal. I kind of poo-poo that line of thinking. Ian Douglas Hamilton, you might know who he is. He's a very prominent researcher, very prominent in leading efforts to preserve elephants. He's the founder of Save the Elephants. And he said, we don't know the precise reason for his migration into Somalia, talking about Morgan. Now, the Save the Elephants, I should mention, is a UK charity that is headquartered in Nairobi. And they conduct a lot of research on elephant behavior and ecology. Probably it was in search of a mate. Moving by night was an extreme form of survival in a region where elephants are under threat from poaching, said Ian Douglas Hamilton. He was the first elephant on record to visit in Somalia in 20 years. So the Save the Elephants group then went about to conduct a study this past September on African elephant migratory patterns. They found that some elephants in sub-Saharan Africa have started uncharacteristically traveling at night, basically to avoid the threat of poaching. Poaching typically takes place during the day when the hunters can see the animals better. Elephants have also developed sophisticated gestures, sounds, infrasound, and even chemical secretions to relay messages to one another for survival purposes. Elephants talk they emanate sounds at extremely low frequency that's below what humans can hear, but because they're very low frequencies, they have very long wavelengths and they can travel great distances. So through various means, elephants can suggest that the group moves on, that they sense danger, or that they are in distress. It's not just where the elephants are going that's of interest to researchers, but when and how they're communicating about it within the groups, between herds, and across generations. In other words, they could be teaching the young elephants. This is adaptation. Now, this is adaptation that's never going to fossilize or anything like that. But this is adaptation. This is organisms adapting to conditions in their environment to enhance their survival. So this is really interesting. Some other interesting aspects of what the researchers have learned. When family groups of elephants come into contact with people, older experienced females typically communicate to their family. Remember, elephants are a matriarchal society. The females are the head of the elephant families. So the matriarch will communicate with her family that there is a threat and they will either flee or charge. Last thing you want to see is a full-grown African elephant bearing down on you. That will be enough to scare you. Calves and juvenile learn how to react from watching their mothers. Researchers have also found that African elephants can differentiate between human languages in order to identify potential threats. For example, elephants in Kenya's Amboseli National Park near the Tanzanian border in the south have shown the ability to distinguish between the voices and scents of potentially threatening spear-carrying Maasai warriors with those of less threatening farming tribes. Research on elephant populations increasingly illustrates the complex ways they communicate and thus demonstrating their extreme level of intelligence. So, this is extremely exciting, in the sense that it demonstrates very clearly the high intelligence of these animals to not only change their behavior, but in the means of communication, and the fact that they can even understand human speech. Not in the sense that they're going to talk with us, but they can understand, they can differentiate between warrior tribes and farming tribes. That's incredible, I think. So, I can only hope that the efforts to preserve elephants and increase their numbers continues to be will be successful, and that these animals can start seeing increase in their numbers. They are majestic creatures. They are important to ecosystems, as are all species. So I like this story for demonstrating adaptation and intelligence. I often wonder who really are the intelligent species on this planet. Thank you for watching. Please share. Please subscribe. Please become a patron at patreon.com/Science Talk with Jim Massa. If you're already a patron, thank you for your support and continued support.